Hey everybody, it's Bethany. Welcome to my online YouTube channel. I'm so glad you're here today. If you haven't subscribed, you can do so right below. Today I'm going to be answering a few viewer questions and also showing you a quick tip on how I attach my paper to my support here, my easel. And the first question is from Robert, and what he asked me was, why are you calling it pastel painting instead of pastel drawing? And that's a really common question and not necessarily a real concrete, hard and true fact which one is which one is a drawing and which one is a painting. But the term and definition that I like to explain to people when they ask me is, generally people think of drawing as anything that's dry. But in the Oxford Dictionary, a drawing is more linear and has a lot of line work, and a ton of the support or paper or canvas is still showing. It's not completely covered. In a painting, the surface is covered, with pigment. Lots of color is used. You layer values just like in an oil painting, and so that's just generally how I explain it to people that aren't painters or people that draw. How I am defining a pastel painting versus a pastel drawing or a drawing. I do employ, whenever I am showing you guys my time lapses and the real-time videos, that I do draw in the very beginning of the stages with that hard pastel or sometimes a pencil. I'm drawing in the shape of the trees, the shape of the clouds, the foreground, just the general shapes, and then I start to employ more painterly techniques with the either rubbing alcohol, surgical spirits. Sometimes I use watercolor. Sometimes you can even use an oil stain on your paintings. And so that's how I just explain it to you, and I hope that answers your question, Robert. Thank you for sending it in. The question I'm going to answer is from Monica. Monica, thank you for sending this question in. And she asked, when you are using acrylic, watercolor, or oil stains, as you mentioned, isn't that considered a mixed media painting? And thank you, Monica, for sending that question in. It's a really valid point to make and one that I love to educate people about. I am a member of a governing body here in the United States called the Pastel Society of America. And whenever I am exhibiting with them or submitting some of my pieces to an exhibit to be juried into a show, most shows put out what is called a prospectus, or basically the rules to follow in regards to your submission and to the pieces that you're submitting. Now, the Pastel Society of America designates that if your work is 80% soft pastel on the surface, then it is considered a soft pastel painting. And so that's really just kind of the rules I follow with my clients or with galleries. If 80% of the piece on the surface is soft pastel, then I just simply call it a pastel painting. With all of that in mind, I had an opportunity I was in New York this past summer, and I went to an exhibit at the MoMA, or the Museum of Modern Art, to see the Degas exhibit where they were showing his pastel and his monotype works. It was so incredible to walk around that room, see all of the pieces that he had created, during this period of his life, where he was putting pastel with ink, the monotypes that he did, and just using all different kinds of exploratory techniques to bring life to his work. And that is where the fun part of art comes into play. I said that I adhere to rules whenever I am submitting to an exhibition. Now, when I'm not submitting to an exhibition and I'm just playing in my studio, or if I'm getting ready for a solo show, or even just a gallery show where they might not have a juried prospectus, then the bets are off, and you can employ these different techniques, make your paintings work for you, not for the rules that you think they have to adhere to. And so those are just some simple answers to kind of a complicated 2 questions, but hopefully that gives you some encouragement to play with your art. If Degas can do it, then so can we. And so anyway, but make sure you send in your questions for the next question and answer session. I love to answer them. I love to get to communicate with you guys like that, and I appreciate you watching. Now, before we go, I'm going to show you a really quick tip that I love, and this is a really simple little thing, but something that has actually saved me a lot of money. Now, this is my easel that you can see right here, and this is just a piece of cardboard that this is from, I think it's some packaging material that I use. Anything that's flat, I'm gonna put my paper on for sure. And I don't have a very tall ceiling, and so I use just this really basic portable easel, and I can quickly fold it up if I need more space in my studio, like when I had that huge painting a couple weeks ago in my space. But I used to tape all the way around my edges with black tape, and even in some of the videos that I did previously, you'll notice that I used to have tape around my edges. Well, I just hate wasting anything. I hate wasting paper, I hated wasting tape, and it seemed like I was going through so much of it, and it is not really cheap. It was artist tape that I got at my craft store because I didn't want it to be super tacky on the surface, and using regular blue painter's tape that you get at your home decor store or home improvement store, the blue color takes away from the painting and being able to read the colors properly. So I always like to get that black painter's tape or black artist tape. Okay, so what I do is I just clamp my paper to the top of this cardboard, making sure it's flat, and I take a thumbtack and I make a hole in the back of the cardboard right next to the paper. And then I do it also on the other side, just like that. What that does for me is whenever I'm painting and I want to paint that edge, I just can flip it out, paint, and then flip it back in. And I know that this little corner doesn't matter that much, but it helps me in my framing process not have to worry about cutting that off, and it just makes a more complete painting, especially if I'm mailing one to a client somewhere, and I want the painting to be nice and clean all around the edges. Now, I had another question actually just a couple weeks ago about painting to the edge of your piece versus leaving a border. I don't often leave a border whenever I'm painting like this, unless I'm doing a plein air piece. Now, plein air pieces, I still do take my paper down because it would blow away here in the windy panhandle of Texas if I didn't tape it down. But here in my studio, I just hate wasting that tape. And so this is a great way to conserve your materials. It's easy, if you use cardboard, or sometimes I paint on black foam core, whatever flat surface I have that I don't have a painting currently on, because especially large pieces, I'll often take this whole piece of cardboard and store my painting still on it until it's ready to frame or be sent to a client. So anyway, those are some simple, fast questions, and just a little tip to show you. Next week I'll have another time-lapse demo for you, and make sure you send in your questions so I can answer them for you in future episodes here on my channel. I hope you're having a great week. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I will talk to you later. Bye.